Hello, everyone. Back to another. I messed that all up. I messed it all up, Shelby.
Just a little too enthusiastic.
I was back and forth between whether or not I was going to say hello and welcome everyone back to another episode of the Publisher Lab. Obviously, Shelby King.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I was going to try to shock everyone like I did a few episodes again. If I was going to try to pretend in the last welcome, I was like, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. And then bam, I hit you again with it. That would be even more shocking.
People would definitely not expect it.
They would not expect it, nor would they maybe want it. The story of this podcast.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I was just thinking a minute ago about how we've been doing this podcast for over a year now. We reached triple digits in the episode number, so it's been a long run.
Yeah, and the podcast kind of before you came along and really whipped it into shape, it was kind of on again, off again, and we would start to grow some listeners, and then our good friend John Cole and I, who was my co-host for a while, we would just miss weeks at a time. And, one lesson we've definitely learned on this show is that consistency is really important whenever you're publishing regular content. So you've helped us with that, certainly.
Yeah. So it's definitely, the podcast is something that I feel like I've slowly grown to love. In the beginning, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. I still feel nervous some days, most days. But it's okay.
I don't think the podcast has anything to do with that. I think that's just your natural state, just naturally just sort of nervous.
That's actually 100% true. So the first topic of the day is YouTube. So they're testing donations for content creators. So this one is from Search Engine Journal. So they're testing a new form of monetization which lets creators earn money directly from viewers. So with this new feature, viewers can support their favorite creators by purchasing applause on the videos they enjoy. Applause is similar to purchasing super chats on live YouTube videos. The key difference is that applauses can be purchased anytime on any video. And viewers actually don't really receive anything for purchasing applauses. It's simply designed to kind of personally thank YouTube creators. But when viewers click on the applause button, a pop-up will appear and users can complete a transaction. So users can spend $2 on a single clap, or they can donate as many as they'd like, up to $500 a day. When buying applause, YouTube will take 30% of the cut and the rest will go to the creator. So it's currently only available for purchase on desktop, and it's only available to viewers in select countries as well. And by they don't get anything, they do get one small little animation at the top of the video. That's pretty much like a clapping animation. So that's what they get.
Yeah, I think the way that you kind of said that with the sigh at the end is really sort of how publishers should probably feel about this. So I'll give you the reason why I'm not I'm not real bullish on the idea of donations in general for content creators or publishers as a form of monetization on any platform. It's not that I don't think that it can work or provide a source of income, because I do think we have examples of, I think it was Mac Observer who was at our event last year who talked about they actually were able to successfully utilize donations to fund their podcast. And I do think that you see more and more that where you have these very loyal. I'm a donator to a podcast actually that I really like and just do it regularly because I'm a fan. So I do think there are edge cases where some of this can work, but I don't know that it's the primary source of revenue, and I don't like it as an industry business model, because how many other industries can you think of where a product is produced and then they rely on donations as the primary mechanism for basically business operations?
I mean, not many, besides charities and
charities.
I mean, Twitch is kind of one of those, but not really. And it's also different because that's streaming versus video that's uploaded directly to the internet and played later. So yeah, not too many of those.
Yeah, if you think about it in terms of actual physical products that you would buy or use or something like that, the idea of imagine if you had pay-per-view. Let's use professional wrestling or boxing or something like that is an example. Can you imagine any of those business models being able to support themselves on a donation base? They have these rabid fans that really obviously want to see either these, professional wrestlers in their match or a boxing match. This coming up, if you're listening to this podcast and you're a boxing fan, Wilder Fury is actually getting ready to take place. My guess is if they relied on a donation model, they would need some pretty heavy pockets to fund that. So I'm not a huge fan, is it from an industry standpoint? And then much less if you're a content creator on YouTube, why would you not want to just include your Patreon link and encourage people to use that where you can, or, any kind of donation, not to push Patreon, but if YouTube is going to tell you that they're going to take 30%, like as somebody that like is wanting to donate to a content creator, how do you feel about knowing that 30% of the money you're going to donate is just going to go into the pockets of Google?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great feeling. I didn't even think about, other donation platforms like Patreon and things like that, which would make a lot more sense from both a creator and kind of a viewer standpoint.
Yeah, if I'm a content creator, I'm a little bit peeved that YouTube is going to like push this. And, back in the day, and they've changed their model a little bit, but Capterra and G2 Crowd and some of those other software review sites, what they would do is when people would look for software reviews, you'd go there and then it would say, would you like a demo or would you like someone from this organization to contact you? You'd say yes, and you'd give in your information. And then they would turn around and go to the software company and say, hey, we've got these leads. You need to buy them from us. So it's kind of like a middleman shakedown. And in Google's case, they're kind of doing the same thing with this, where they're saying like, hey, would you like to donate and support this content creator? And a user is saying, yeah. And then Google's turn around and saying like, hey, this person donated $100. Here's $70. And you're like, but they donated to me from my content.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a not so hidden agenda there. All right, so the next topic I want to talk about is Complex. So they're working with Parsons to create an online course about streetwear. So through a partnership with the Parsons School of Design, Complex recently launched an online streetwear essentials business course. So the course consists of approximately five-hour-long video modules with assignments that are submitted and graded by professors at Parsons. And these professors specialize in streetwear, which I didn't know was a thing that existed.
You didn't know that streetwear was a thing that existed?
Well, no, I didn't know that there were professors who specialized in streetwear, but each module focuses on a different topic related to creating a streetwear fashion business. So that's design, marketing, retail operation, product distribution, and entrepreneurship. So the videos feature interviews with designers in the space. So these are designers who Complex has had existing relationships with through other editorial stuff, and also includes some interviews of Complex editors and Parsons professors and alumni. So Complex's VP of Commerce and Business Development said that in the same way that we're expanding our Hot Ones universe with a line of hot sauces and now a network television, we're productizing our expertise. So students will have a maximum of 1 year to finish the course, and they'll receive a non-credit certification from the school. And the price for the course is around $1,000, and Complex earns revenue through a commission made off of the tuition. So overall, a very interesting partnership. I don't know if you saw your favorite Hot Ones is going to be a TV show.
Yeah, no, it actually debuted yesterday, I think, on True TV, which is interesting. And I saw that they'd come out with a whole new line of hot sauces for it. And it's fascinating to me because I remember the article a while back that they were doing 85% of their, the show revenue from hot sauce sales. And I thought to myself, wow, like is True TV, is like the business model for this show the same, where it's like they're going to basically try to fund a TV show with hot sauce sales? Like, but one, under creative based on like they're just duplicating literally the exact same model. But then just also like, wow, things are really shifting in terms of like how advertising and product are kind of like blending into a lot of the content that's created.
This an e-course on, streetwear is very on brand or kind of
Yeah.
like very fitting for Complex. I think they do a really good job at kind of, finding those topics that their audience are really going to enjoy and are actually really interested in it. And the fact that they bring kind of that business knowledge and expertise into that is kind of something that adds value to it, where you wouldn't really necessarily find that just kind of on the internet.
I think that anytime you have a subject where you have people that are passionate about it, so like Complex has like an entire TV series where it's like, like go sneaker shopping with Wale or something like that. Like the people that are watching those types of shows, like there's a subsection of them that are so into it that like they would like to take a streetwear like e-course, you know what I mean, to like learn more about it, maybe because like they'd like to make it a career, or like they're just that interested in the topic. And I do think that that's a great way for publishers to think about the content they create for their audiences. So if you find yourself as being a publisher that largely is creating like commodity content or referential content, realize that like that content, there's probably like a step 2 or phase 3 where you become a like basically an outlet for the nerdiest of nerds of those subjects. Like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, but like the people that really geek out on something that like most people would probably find very uninteresting. Some good example of something that I have no interest in whatsoever that my wife is like deep into is makeup. I know that that's not like overly original, but like she understands. She'll like explain to me like, well, this brand launched this sub brand and they did it through influencers and this is how they did that. And she'll know all this and it relates nothing to anything that she actually wants to do, but she's just interested. And I think that you can probably find a lot of topics that are that way. And I look over time at the sites that I've built organically. And one of the things that stands out is that I've always had experts that I could either sit down with and say, hey, explain to me how this works, so that I would always have like the best content on those particular topics. And this is no exception, where if you have access or you are that expert, like there's somebody out there that wants that expertise, like get it out there. And if you have to do it in a course or something like that, I think it makes it that much more like ties the audience to you, as opposed to this is just a commodity.
Definitely. $1,000 for a course, that's pretty steep. But at the same time, it's about 25 hours worth of video modules and content. So I don't know how many people are buying these courses, but they did one on sneakers not too long ago. So it was successful enough to do another one, it turns out.
I mean, when you think of it in terms of education, the price is actually pretty inexpensive. And I guess it really just, education is always based on the perceived value of the opportunities that it creates. So I don't know, like maybe you meet some other people in your e-course, or if the e-course can legitimately connect you to people that can help you break into an industry or field. I mean, I think that's a really low cost, actually.
All right. The next topic I have is from Backlinko. So it's actionable content marketing tips for more traffic. So I picked out a few and I figured we could kind of do a thumbs up, thumbs down. So the first one is to publish X versus Y post. So these are like paleo versus keto, or Uber Eats versus Postmates. So the reasoning behind this is that X versus Y keywords don't currently have a lot of SEO competition, and that people looking for these types of queries have a pretty specific intent in mind, or they really want to know just that comparison. So thumbs up or thumbs down?
Big time thumbs up. I used to create a lot of this content, and it was like a secret weapon. Whenever I was building software companies in the early days, we would basically take any competitors or any ancillary technologies that associated with our stuff, and it would just be versus. If you use a tool like Answer the Public or something like that, and you throw just about any product in there, you'll find that those are really, like, you'll almost never find a product or something where people haven't consistently searched like versus whatever. And you could start using a free tool like Answer the Public to find some good ones.
All right. The next one is to add more cuts to your video content. So Brian says that today most of his videos have 80 to 100 cuts each. And this is because they're full of ums, uhs, and you knows. So those slow the video down. People want their videos to be fast, and that helps retain viewers when he cuts down on those videos. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Another big thumbs up. It's something that we've talked about doing with some of the different videos that we've put together. We've actually started doing that with some of our Ezoic spotlight videos, where we've got interviews with publishers where we kind of just cut through a lot of the oohs and the ums and some of the redundant information. We've talked about it before with tutorials. My least favorite kind of tutorial is the guy that's like, I'm just booting up my laptop here. Like, let's just wait and see. A little slow today. And it's like, oh, you've lost me, And I think in general, you think about the attention span of somebody. I get my phone out whenever ads are playing. I get my phone out if I feel like I know the plot or where it's going to go. Keeping people's attention is not easy, and the cuts, unfortunately, are a product of that.
Definitely. I'll do it here and there in this podcast too. It might not sound like it to most people because I want to keep a lot of it natural, but there are lots of ums and ums and stuff. But I really find that it is worth cutting out. And the last one is to start your post with the PBC formula. So this stands for preview, benefit, and call to action. So he kind of gives this example. So first you start with the preview. The example in the article is like you would start your posts with, in this post, you're going to learn how to write a press release in 2020. Then you would list the benefits. So this press release guide includes real life examples, templates, promotional strategies. And finally, you cap things off with a call to action. So let's dive in right now and learn how to write these press releases. So thumbs up, thumbs down. Is that, too much to start with? Or
I would say thumbs down is universal. Like, use that. Thumbs up in certain cases. I think that there are specific types of content that are how-to related where that's a great model. I think that there are certain types of content that are how-to related where that's the worst model, because you need to reverse pyramid it and give them the information as soon as possible, because that's what your competitors are doing, and it's a race to see who can provide the information in the most succinct form. One of the things I think we've consistently seen here in the last 6 months is that dwell time coming from Google, which is like something that people are always like conspiratorial about in Google measuring, is longer dwell time might not necessarily be associated with higher ranking. Meaning, if Google sees somebody come to the search engine results page, and they click on two different results, and in both cases they don't search anything else, they seemingly get the answer they're looking for, and in one the dwell time is 30 seconds, the other is a minute, Google might decide to rank the 30-second one higher, specifically because they think someone got the answer faster. And that is something you really do need to think about in terms of Google Knowledge Graph, Google Rich Snippets, and a lot of the other things that they're providing. You don't have to like it, and I understand that. You're probably like shouting at the car steering wheel or your earbuds or however you're listening to this podcast. So I understand the frustration of that, but in a lot of cases, Google's goal is to reward someone from providing answers as quickly as possible. So if how-to is difficult, then you probably do want to set it up. But if the how-to is like step 1, turn off computer, step 2, turn computer back on, step 3, magic. Like, you probably don't need to set that up.
Yeah, definitely. The last topic is kind of just an interesting headline I saw while on Search Engine Journal. But Warner Bros. Has actually renamed their recently released film, Birds of Prey, to simply just Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. Actually, the full title used to be Birds of Prey and Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. So they made it shorter to make it easier for moviegoers to find tickets online. So it was kind of a disappointing weekend in the box office. So they figured that changing around and kind of front-loading Harley Quinn, which is the main character's name, instead of burying it at the end, would be a better approach. So, whether it's a page title or, the title of a film, it's pretty important to kind of evaluate the intent and the influence that's going on before you publish it. So kind of just a little one-off that I found really interesting.
Yeah, it's a very expensive way to run an A/B test. My guess is there was probably a lot of people that felt really passionate about those decisions at some point, just knowing how Hollywood works. But I would say that it happened a while back with a Tom Cruise movie too. That's like kind of infamous for that. They like changed the name 3 times. Edge of Tomorrow, which they also was called like Live, Die, Repeat. And then I think the final title was like Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, or Live, Die, Repeat on the Edge of Tomorrow.
That's very different. At least Harley Quinn, it's just like you're making the title a bit more concise.
Yeah, and it brings forward, like in that one, it seems pretty obvious. Like they're trying to make sure that people understand that this movie is like associated with this character that, and they might not have known that before. But I do think that is very important to understand is that especially when people are like looking for or maybe discovering your content, title really matters a lot. So there's, like let's imagine CTR is or isn't a ranking factor. Okay, let's pretend it's not because it's Google says it's not. Let's just take their word for it. So let's just say CTR in all of its forms are not at all going to affect your rankings. CTR does affect your traffic though. So if you have 1% of people click on your result in search engines versus 2%, it doesn't really matter if you rank in the same position or not. You're going to get twice as much traffic on that 2% CTR. So having a title that people like want to click on doesn't say to make it clickbaity, but it does say like make sure you're advertising your content properly. When you're in, if you're running a search ad, you go into AdWords and you're going to test like 5 ads because you're trying to figure out like which one is going to be the best performing. I mean, in organic search, you don't really get that opportunity. And a lot of people will be smart and test those things, but it's definitely worth it to explore those things as much as you can.
Yeah, that's actually all I have for this week. Is there anything going on your end?
Not really. I think that we've got Pubtelligence coming up in New York here in a little over a month, and we're just about full, but I think we still have a handful of openings.
Yeah, just a few. And then if you are a podcast listener and you send me an email and say, pretty please, we'll see what we can do there. One thing I want to mention is that if you are watching the podcast, we may be in a new space next episode.
All right.
Yeah, slowly getting our studio kind of put together, so hoping that we'll have a little change of scenery next episode.
We've been a bit nomadic, so for those that aren't aware, and I don't know if we've ever talked about on the podcast, we've moved buildings, so we're in a second building now, and we're in our own space, which is bigger, and we've got all these great rooms, but they're not really outfitted yet because we've had one that's supposed to be like a studio, and we've been in waiting, and we're almost there, I think. So
yeah, so that's all I've got.
That's all I have as well. So we want to thank you for joining us on another episode of The Publisher Lab.